So, good morning. I'm kind of famous for buying books. I love to read and I buy books, and sometimes I buy them and I don't read them. And I've had this little book for years, and it's called Creating a Charmed Life. And I'd never read it. And so I was.
Can't hear you. You're on mute.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
There you go.
All right. So, what I was saying, I am famous for buying books. I love to read, but I like to hold a book. I like a real book with paper. And so I buy books. Most of them I read, but I had bought this little book years ago and have really never read it. And so I was thinking about a title last week for Zoom, and this caught my eye, and I thought, well, I want to talk about creating a charmed life. So I had to read it in order to do a talk on it, and it's a wonderful book. And next week is Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and the theme of it is "Come as You Are." Everyone is welcome. So, what is so interesting about this book, and I had no idea until I started reading, when she wrote in the front of it a little bit about her life, is that she is, and her name is Veronica Moran. And what she said is that she had suffered from an eating disorder all of her life. Isn't that amazing?
There you are. There you are.
Hello?
You're there.
Okay. In reading about her, I realized that she had suffered from an eating disorder for years. And I thought, isn't that a coincidence? That's kind of how God works. Here I was going to do this little talk on a charmed life. Creating a charmed life, and the woman didn't have a charmed life growing up. She lived in wealth. She traveled the world with her parents. She met leaders of states. She was right up there with met some of the most famous people in the world, and still had low self-esteem, did not feel good about herself. And, her parents were busy. Not to fault parents, but her parents were busy. And most of her parenting came from an older woman, and she called her Dee Dee. And this older woman is the one that spoke in to Victoria's life and really taught her the things that show up in this book. And so that's why we have to be real careful and be aware of people that are put in our lives, because and it's about staying conscious and paying attention, because I believe everyone that crosses our paths, we can learn from them and they can learn from us. We can learn, what to do and what not to do. We can learn a lot from people of what not to do, And so I just thought it was interesting how this woman's, when we talk about prosperity, my Lord, she was raised in prosperity. If you equal prosperity to having money, that's all she knew all of her life. And, and she went on to say that, when you live that kind of wealth, you don't know that you're living in that kind of wealth. That's just normal. Abnormal becomes normal, and she didn't realize until she got grown. But anyway, I wanted to give her credit for, and anytime I share anything about a book or anything, I always like to give the author credit, because it takes a lot of work. I've written a book. I know the kind of work it takes. And so, and I'm just giving you a little thumbnail sketch of this little powerful book. There's so much good stuff in it. But the good news is that those of us in 12-step programs, we have a plan of action starting at step 1 through step 12 that teaches us how to live a charmed life. And if we continue to practice those principles every day in our life, there's no failure. There's no failure to it. Now, we are blessed. That's why I believe when we go to meetings, we hear people say, I'm a grateful recovering compulsive overeater, bulimic, alcoholic, whatever. You know, I don't believe any of us are just real grateful for having the disease, but I think we're grateful for finding a way to recover and to treat it. So I just wanted to give that little bit of news about her being having an eating disorder and in recovery. You know, considering that next week is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And so I want to give you just a few things about how to live a charmed life and live prosperously. One of the things that she mentioned is follow your heart. Follow your heart. You know, yes, we must use the brain. We must, and you know, we think with the brain, we feel with the heart. That is a 12-inch journey, and that's our job at Shades, is to help folks connect the heart to the brain. Most people are thinkers. They overthink, think, or they're feelers, feel. And so it's about getting a balance in that. But then, you know, find things that gives you a heart connection that you can connect to with. I see my friend T on there. She devoted her entire life to sports and was a program director in the Seattle, not program director, athletic director in the Seattle, in the city of Seattle, and was really in the forefront of helping women athletes. And so she had a heart. That's what I'm talking about. She had a heart for sports because she was a sports person, and she made it her life's work. And when we make something that is in our heart our life's work, there's no failure to it. You know, it may not pay the biggest bucks in the world or whatever, but when we live out of our heart and then we think with our brain and put those two together, there's going to be success. There really is. And it may not be, you know, success in, you know, like I said, a lot of money, but that's not really what prosperity is. It's being able to, you know, find what touches you and then being willing to follow your heart. Follow your heart. And I'll just say this, years and years and years ago, I was trying to think this morning how long it was. And from the time I was a kid, I had been searching for answers to help my alcoholic mother, you know, prescription drugs and all. And I would go to any little thing, even as a teenager. And I can't remember how old I was, probably in my 20s or something, I don't know, 19. And I had been out to Odessa, West Texas, visiting my mother, and I noticed in the paper that Dr. Father Martin, who had a treatment center back east, and I didn't know anything about him, but I read that he was going to talk about alcoholism with the family. I was so shy, so bashful, I could hardly call and get a ticket, but nevertheless, I went over there, and I listened to him, and he described from his heart what it was like to live in the home of addiction. And that put in my heart the need, the want to. I didn't know what it would all look like, but I knew then that I wanted to help children of alcoholics. Now, and that was my goal. I mean, I was 18, 19, I don't know how old I was, but that put that spark in my heart. And it sat there for years, you know, and so that's what I'm trying to say. Anything that sparks your heart. You know, we can all get a job, and we do need jobs. And what we tell people, you know, a lot of times people don't want a job, they want a position. They want to start at the top. Just get a job, just get a bad job, whatever, you know, to make a living. But if you have a spark in your heart to really do something, follow that, and God will bless your effort. And then there's a thing about get ample time to shine. You know, take compliments. Everyone needs their time and to shine, you know, to be noticed. And And I was always so embarrassed for anybody to pay attention to me at all. But anyway, what this is spend time with people who think that you are splendid. Spend time with people who think you are wonderful. Don't spend your time with people that don't like you and that you're trying to convince to like you. You're wasting your time. Spend time with those who love and adore you, because they will tell you, and then you can tell them. And that is why, then you can both shine. And the thing about, and then that brings us up to 3 is really spend time with people who you enjoy spending time with. Now, if you're in a job that you don't like and you're going to run across people you don't like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, don't waste your time on spending time with people who you don't really want to spend time with. So anyway, I beat that to death. And then number 4, and this was a big one for me, is celebrate yourself. I never would tell anybody when my birthday was because I was embarrassed. And, she talks about really celebrating our friends, our families, and celebrating ourselves. And to tell people when your birthday's coming up, well, my face is turning red just thinking about it, telling people, and I was speaking of T, I missed my friend T's birthday. She just had a birthday. Happy birthday, T. No, it wasn't. Hers is in August. Excuse me. That was Terry Mann. I'm sorry. Excuse me. But anyway, happy future birthday, T. And then another thing is train people close to you to celebrate you. And, express appreciation for yourself and for others. And that's hard to do because, we have that, in 12-step programs, we all learn to get out of ourselves. We don't want to live there in ourselves, but there's a flip to that. We also need to learn to love that self, love ourselves as God loves us. And always never leave an honest compliment unspoken. Love ourselves, but love others and people who cross your paths. If you have an opportunity to compliment them about something, do that. And here I am giving a disclaimer about myself. I'm not bragging on myself, but I'll tell you, this is something that I do when I'm out in public. I don't care what they do, if they open a door for me, if they're nice or not nice in the checkout. If you want to break the ice with someone, give them a compliment. Make it honest. Don't make it up. Make sure it's honest. But be willing to give compliments. When people cross your path. And another thing, number 6, is don't downplay your success. I have a lot have downplayed my success because I feel embarrassed. And then I get to thinking about, and I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I've been honored a lot of, Women of the Year, women, the remarkable woman of the area, Woman of the Year. Anyway, I've been honored a lot. And I'm blessed to have been honored a lot. And it was hard for me to even tell anybody that, I needed to get comfortable with the success that I've had. I own a small business with my daughter, Christy, and it's not easy to keep any small business running, let alone a treatment center. But by the grace of God and a lot of help from a lot of people, we've been here. This month is our 34th anniversary. We've been here for 34 years, February of 1988. And so they always say if a business is going to fail, it's going to fail in the first 3 years. If you make it past the first 5 years, you have a good chance of making it. And it would be touch and go here for years. But, it was never a business to me. It was never a job. It was that heart mission, where that young teenage or older teen, young adult heard Father Martin, and that was put into my heart. And I wanted to help addicts and it grew to addicts, alcoholics, eating disordered people, children, families. So anyway, when you're successful, don't downplay it. And uh, and you know, and whether the world notices you or not, celebrate yourself. Uh, Take yourself to lunch and make it a nice place with white. I love to go somewhere where I'm served and where there's white tablecloths and black napkins. I prefer the black napkins because then the white doesn't get on the black that I'm usually wearing, you know. And so celebrate yourself. And one of the things that, you know, sponsors are not counselors, but I'll tell you, they can be very wise people. One of the very first sponsors I had in Al-Anon, and that was back in 1968, she just came here, didn't stay here long, and I always thought that God sent her here just for me. I mean, you know, we are a little self-centered, but that woman taught me a lot. And one of the things she had me do, because I was so shy and bashful, she had me to get a babysitter one day, and there was a mall. It was new. Now it's already closed. I mean, it's closed. It's been years ago. But anyway, she said, I want you to go out to Westgate Mall, and I want you to start at one end, and I want you to walk the end of that mall and look, and don't look at anybody. Don't look at anyone in the eye. Don't smile at anyone. I want you to walk all the way down there and just keep your feet on the floor. And that was easy. I mean, that's what I did all the time because I hated to make contact with people because I knew they were going to say, you know, you're fat, you're all that, you know, because I was very obese at that time. And then she said, at the end of that, turn around and I want you to come back and I want you to make contact with everyone that passes you and I want you to smile at everyone. And guess what? When I did that, every person, there was not one person that did not smile back at me. Now that, for a bashful, shy person, was a huge assignment. But I would have done anything to get well. I did anything anybody told me to do. And then she gave me another big one, talking about taking yourself out to lunch. She said, I want you to, this was another month, you know, get a babysitter, and I want you to go back to Westgate Mall to White's Cafeteria. And she said, I want you to go at noon, and it was packed. It was always busy. And she said, I want you to get your food, and then I want you to look around and see someone that is sitting by themselves, and you go sit down with them. Ask if you can sit down with them. Oh my God, I nearly threw up just thinking about that assignment. I mean, but I wanted to do it. I mean, I wanted to get better, so I did. And I looked around, and there was people sitting by themselves, but I spotted this elderly man. And I was in my early 30s, and I spotted this elderly man. I thought, okay, I'll go over there. So I went and asked if I could sit down. And, you know, one of the things I learned from that man is we all have a story, and we all want to tell it to someone. And I sat down, and I introduced myself, and I just said, how are you? And he started talking about his wife that was in the hospital, that was dying from cancer, and that he had not left the hospital for days. His family, the nurses made him leave, and they said, go by yourself, just go out and breathe, go get something to eat. And here I came along and asked to sit by him. And he told me his story, but he also, I'm about to cry thinking about it, he told me their love story, how he met his wife. That man needed to do that, and I needed to hear it. And had that sponsor not given me that assignment, would I have ever done that? Absolutely not. Not this shy person. Never saw the man again. But see, today I'm 79 years old. That's been, I mean, y'all can figure it out, many years ago. And I remember it, and I can get the feeling that I got then. And I thought, I'm a pretty selfish person because I don't smile at people. I don't speak to people. And it wasn't that I didn't want to speak to people, it was that I didn't feel worthy of speaking to anyone. I was had carried so much shame. All right, so that, notice yourself, congratulate yourself, send yourself flowers. And if you have received any form of recognition in your life, do like they do on the what's that, Academy Awards. Give thanks, appreciation to people. Anyone that has helped you do anything, whether it's a sponsor, whether it's a boss, whether it's a loan officer at a bank, anyone that's helped you in your process, thank them. Thank them. Give them lots of appreciation. And then another thing is, she titled it, Take 10. You know, we've heard about, counting to 10. If you get real angry, count to 10 or whatever. But she talks about taking some time off out of our busy day. We talk about that in 12-step programs, to take time of a morning for prayer and meditation. That is so important. Take time to make conscious contact with God before we can make conscious contact with people. Don't get so busy that you can't afford to, because we can't afford to miss that private time, even 10 minutes of rest and connection with the God of your understanding. And then I like this is, she called it, don't cry over spilt milk. If the milk is spilt, that is in the past. It's happened. Clean it up. What I always say, you can tell when children live in an alcoholic home and that there's no recovery. What usually, let's say what happens, the mascot gets all around bunches at the breakfast table and cracking jokes and all, and he spills his milk, or she, whatever that little mascot is, spills the milk. The scapegoat will take the blame for it and start screaming and hollering and talking down trash at the kid that spilled the milk. The hero child will get up and try to clean it up, and the lost child will just sink deeper into their chair. But in healthy families, they don't stress over the spilt milk. You clean it up, and that's in the past. It's already happened. And that's what we do a lot of times when we focus on the past. Fear and anxiety is focusing on the future, what hasn't happened yet. Guilt is what has happened in the past. When we feel guilty, it's never about what we haven't done, it's what we did, and we can't forgive ourselves for. So don't fret over the spilled milk. Clean it up, whatever the mess is. If it's your mess, clean it up. If you want to see a mess, I could take you back into my sitting room where I do my individuals on Thursdays. And I started looking for pictures for when we open shades to do a little Zoom about the opening. Well, I still haven't found them, but I started digging out stuff in those cabinets, and that room is full of clutter. So that's what I get to do, is I get to clean up my mess. I spilled the milk, I'll clean it up. So, but in the process, I'm finding more interesting things in there. One of the things that I'm going to talk about here in a minute that I found was my old envelopes. When I came home from treatment for my eating disorder and I couldn't use food to fill up that hole in my soul, what I started doing was shopping. And, I had kind of been a shopper before, but nothing like I got into. I went to the mall, it was like I took that card and I charged through there. And in a year's time, I'd run up a pretty big debt. My husband would have paid it off, and I said, absolutely not. I did this, I'll pay it off. And so through a series of events, a woman came to an AA meeting, and she talked about getting out of debt and how she used how to get out the book, How to Get Out of Debt and Live Prosperously. And I bought the book, and I used those principles, and I started Debtors Anonymous, and I'll tell you, I absolutely got out of debt. So anyway, what I was going to say, I've often wondered where I put that. What I did is I made envelopes for everything I was paying. Anyway, I had a system, and I found that system, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, bless your heart, you did all of that. You did that. But it was with people's help and God's blessing that I used those simple steps to get myself out of debt. Okay, so Another thing is, and we hear this, is don't take yourself so serious. So many people delight in the intensity of anything. They will find out pick out the worst thing to focus on and focus on that. The sky is falling, there'll be henny penny, and respond when it's appropriate, and when it's not, let it go. And another thing is delight in the details. I go shopping with my little friend here, Misty, on Tuesdays. And what I enjoy the most about that shopping day is watching her in the details, because what she does, she'll get in mind something that she might want for her house, or maybe a piece of clothing or something. And she details what she wants, and she doesn't settle. She keeps looking and she keeps looking, and we may spend 3 Tuesdays looking for the same thing, but she looks for the details of what she's going to purchase and how that might serve her later on, and if she does buy something and she has slipped up on that detail that it doesn't really spark that much joy for her, the next Tuesday we'll be taking it back. So, delighting in the details, it is really kind of knowing what you want and really waiting for that. Sometimes waiting and looking for and getting the pleasure out of life, and just looking at those small little things, those small little details. I used to have a delightful woman that worked for me. I've had a lot of delightful people that have worked at Shades, but one of them was a gardener, and she would make me the cutest little flower arrangements. And she delighted in flowers. And by the way, my Misty girl does too, but this woman would pick weeds and flowers together and make the most detailed little arrangements, and I would delight in them. So, delight in the details. Stay focused and look for what sparks joy in you, and if it doesn't, leave it alone. And that really includes people, places, and things. If you don't delight in the people you're hanging out with, you might want to choose some more friends. They might not see you as delightful either. And so another thing is, and I've said this kind of in a roundabout way, cultivate a compassion. A compassion, yeah. Cultivate a passion for something, and find something that would almost break your heart if you didn't do it. Get compassionate about something. And that is why, people ask me a lot. I'm out and about in the community and, having lunch places and going to different churches, and they'll ask me, aren't you retired? I'll say, oh no, I'm working more now than I have. And they said, well, how long are you gonna work? And I said, it's not work, it's a passion, it's a mission. I get the greatest joy. This afternoon, Kim will come and walk me over there and sit me down in the group room. And that thrills my soul and my heart. And I'm going to keep doing that. If that ever changes, if I get up someday and I don't want to go over there, I'll know it's time to retire, because I won't have anything to give anybody. But this is not a business for me. It is about a compassion of the heart. So I keep talking about the heart. So anyway, another thing is, I don't know what that is. Okay, and it's, and then treat people. When you have a compassion for one thing, don't overlook people in other areas. Treat everyone you see, if we can, the best we can, with love, dignity, and respect. Everyone needs and deserves our love, dignity, and respect. Okay, and I'm going to open this up in a few minutes, but I've still got a few more things I want to talk about. I did a lot of training for 2 or 3 years in shamanic breath work, and I am a licensed shamanic counselor. Y'all know what that is? It's more, it's kind of not airy-fairy. I mean, it's more really heart work. It's about soul work. And we did a lot of training and shadow work. And I just lost my notes here about shadow work. And I don't know if y'all know what shadow is, the shadow work. Anyway, dance with your shadow. Dance with the darkness in you. Dance with that part. It doesn't mean that you want to stay in the darkness, but you're going to learn from that shadow, from the darkness in your life. That, if you're an addict of any sort, you know what I'm talking about. And I'll tell you, we heard a talk last night on the 7 o'clock well, I can't even think this morning. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Meeting.
Huh?
Alumni meeting.
The alumni meeting. I heard one of the best talks that I have heard in years from, and I'm going to say this, he's a very low bottom drug addict alcoholic. And he didn't spare any of the details. He told the details. But what I heard, and I've got cold chills thinking about it, what I heard was so much humility in that man. He talked about how he danced with his shadows and how he kept dancing with the darkness in his life until he found the light. And what the light is, is inside the darkness. And we've got to go in there. That's the reason that we take people back to any form of trauma or any abuse or anything. We take them back into that darkness, because if you don't go in there and look at it and do your grief work and anger work and all over it, you will live in those dark shadows. They will shadow you the rest of your life. And so doing that work and, learning to dance with your shadow, what that means to me is we need to all appreciate our histories, because without our history, we would not be where we are today. I'll tell my story to anyone. It is not a pretty story. It's one of the worst childhoods I've ever heard about. And I'll tell it when it's appropriate, if it'll help people. But I am not that. I'm not my story today. But I had to dance with that story until I got complete with it and could put those dark shadows where they belonged in the past. So, let the light shine on the darkness, and also in this dancing with the shadows. What you're going to find, and I heard this last night from the man, and we are delighting in having this person in treatment, because y'all heard him last night. I'm not breaking anybody's confidentiality, but what he is finding and what we're seeing here is inside all of his darkness, he is finding talents that has been neglected for years. He is finding abandoned dreams that he never allowed himself to dream. He is working with teenagers today with drugs and alcohol. He is here for a tune-up. He's clean and sober. He's a marvelous man in recovery. Now, you can hear me because the shades of people are on here. Don't get the big head when I'm talking about you. But what I love to see low bottom addicts get in recovery, because when they dance with their shadows and they see the light and that light comes out, oh my God, God uses them in ways that are so remarkable. And he's using this man right here in this treatment center. He's a client, but he's teaching all of us a lot. So anyway, don't be afraid to dance with your shadows. And recruit solutions. Find solutions to problems. Now, I never knew how to solve a problem in any way, shape, or form until I got to a 12-step program. That's the best problem-solving process. It'll work for any problem that you have. But when you're feeling down, one of the things, particularly in early sobriety, early recovery from an eating disorder, when we're down, we forget the good times. We forget what helped us before. And so make a conscious list of things you can do when you're down, and place them in different parts of the house, because I'll tell you, we do have a forgetter, and that disease will creep up. It never forgets. The disease is always present right here waiting. It doesn't forget, and it wants to creep back into our thinking. So make a list of things that you can do to tweak that brain when you get in a bad place. And that's called recruiting solutions, So make your list of things, like it could be, which is so obvious for us in 12-step programs, call a sponsor or call a trusted friend. And you don't even have to really talk about the problem. Check on them, see how they're doing. And if it's appropriate, talk about what's going on with you. Another thing is go to a funny movie or find one on Netflix or something, and find a funny movie. I'll tell you, laughter is a gift. That can, it is so healing to find something humorous to laugh about. If it's just yourselves, we all have, we're pretty funny people sometimes when we look at how, strange we are. But anyway, another thing is, if you like music, play upbeat, play show tunes, play something upbeat. And then do free-flowing writing, and then that leads into do journaling. Keep a journal, and all of that mess in there that I have, I pulled out journal after journal after journal after journal. I may have to burn some of them. I don't know. People could probably blackmail me with some of those journals. I don't know. But anyway, free-flowing writing. Write. And if it's appropriate, share it with your sponsor. If not, keep it to yourself. But it's good to get it out. And then the last thing, or next to last thing I want to talk about is what is prosperity. And prosperity starts in your mind and in your home. And welcome yourself home. Welcome yourself into your home. If you're not living in a home, whether it is a one-room apartment or a 20-room, 20,000-foot mansion, if that's not home for you, if it doesn't feel like home, change it. And I read this and I've listened to it, because home is where needs to be a reflection of yourself. When people walk into your home, it needs to reflect who you are. And it's not, excuse me, Jackie, but I'm not talking about your profession, but it's really, your home doesn't need to be what a decorator wants you to have. A good decorator takes your dreams and your taste, and then they create from there. But it's not, something that you've read out of a magazine. It comes there again from the heart. And ask yourself, does your home look like me, or does it look like your family? And I got to laughing. My home looks, I guess, like me, because I've got dolls everywhere, I've got flowers, I've got cute things, and I play that down. People will come in my home and they brag, they'll say, oh, your home is so beautiful, but it's, it's not decorated by a decorator, it's decorated by me. And so I kind of play it down, and I'll say, oh, it's just a little grandmother's house. And I want to start not doing that so much, because I do have a beautiful home, and I do believe that it reflects a lot of me in it. And my husband loved it. And when I started to school, and then I started to work, and I'd always been a homemaker, and he was still drinking. And he came to me one day and he said, I don't like what you're doing. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're not putting out fresh flowers anymore. You don't burn candles. And so all those things that I've always done for me, I didn't know that he even liked them. And he said, you just don't do things in the house to make it look like a home like you used to. And that was true. I kept it clean, or I had a housekeeper to clean it. I kept it clean, but it's those added touches that really make a home. So just for that. And make it look like your family. It doesn't have to all look like you. I'll tell you, I've got walls of pictures of, kids when they were in, anyway, all kid pictures, grandkid pictures, great grandkid pictures. They're everywhere. They're in no order, but I love to look at them. I love to look at them. So home is where you are most thoroughly yourself. So go look at your home and see if you can see yourself there. If not, you might want to change it. So talking about prosperity again, prosperity is a state of mind. It's not how much money you have in the bank. It is not what's on the ledger. Prosperity is about fullness of God. Do not limit your prosperity. Don't limit your thinking. Think abundantly. And I've told you all the story of Shay's, but I always like to tell a little bit of it. Is when I came back from treatment from LA, I knew I wanted to treat all addictions. I had gone a lifetime with a severe eating disorder, sought help everywhere, and I'm not criticizing professionals. They didn't know. Not one person, doctor, therapist, counselor, preacher, minister, anyone that I went to from help, not anyone ever said you have an eating disorder. You're eating yourself to death. They would give me 1,000 calorie diet and say, here, go on this and come back in 30 days and I'll weigh you. It was all about the weight. They didn't know about the bulimia. No one knew that I had an eating disorder. So when I came home and I wrote on the plane home that what I wanted to do was come home and treat eating disorders, create a place where we could treat not only eating disorders, but all addictions. Alcoholism, drug addiction, process addictions, and eating disorders. And by the grace of God, and it is by the grace of God and by the support of my husband and my youngest daughter, Shades of Hope is here today. I had two people behind me, and that was my youngest daughter and my husband. Because I think the reason they supported me so much is they were the ones who lived with me toward the end and saw the biggest damage that my eating disorder had done. They lived it with me, and they supported me in treatment, and they supported me in putting in a treatment center. And so I didn't want to do it, I wanted to do it myself. I didn't want my husband's money. We didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't want him to do it. And I won't go into all the story, but I'll tell you, you can't start a business on nothing, but you do. I mean, it does take a little bit of money, but it's, anyway, I'm not the one to tell you how to start a prosperous business right off. I am one to tell you how to go with your heart. And if it's meant to be, whatever that business looks like, or that vocation, or whatever you plan to do, if it's from the heart and you do the footwork, God will bless every effort, every effort, every effort. And whether it is, I had a woman that always wanted to own, she was a knitter, and she wanted to own a knitting shop. And people would laugh at her because it's West Texas. We don't wear a lot of sweaters, but she was a good knitter. Well, she put in a knit shop and a cute little shopping center here and kept it open for 40 years till the day she died. And people flocked there from all the surrounding towns to buy the materials, the yarn that she would bring in from all over the world. And it started with a thought in her heart that she wanted a little knit shop. So whatever it is, go for the heart, be willing to do the footwork. God will bless the effort, and there will be prosperity. And prosperity is, like I said, is the fullness of God. That is what prosperity is. So I'm going to open it up to y'all. I want you to talk about ways that you have prospered, and through your recovery or through your business or whatever way. And I'm going to call on somebody that has never shared, and I'm going to ask George from Kentucky if he would be willing to share with us. I can't remember you sharing with us. Would you share something with us, George?
Sure. Thank you, Tenny. And thank you so much for your talk. And I love these. I've been coming for several